Let's rank every troop from worst to best to show which ones you need to use and which ones to avoid. Starting with the F tier, these troops are just not worth using and are extremely weak. Starting with the goblins, they have a better version in that of the sneaky goblin, which are just better for targeting resource buildings. Sadly, P.e.k.k.as are still an outdated troop as they are just too slow and just do not offer much to your attacks, and outside of the siege barracks, they're just not worth using in most armies. Super Giants, despite having great HP for the housing space, are worthless outside of Town Hall 12 due to it taking up a super troop slot over other good super troops. And for Super Miners, while decent on defense against throwers, they are horrible on offense as their ability just isn't any better than the regular miner. So here are the F tier troops I don't recommend using in your armies or CC. Moving over to the D tier, these are troops that are situational but fairly decent to use in a few different attack strategies or CCs across Town Hall levels. Starting with the face of Clash of Clans, the Barbarian. Pretty alright in scouting out Teslas, which can be important when using the Fireball, but otherwise doesn't have any main uses outside of barge farming. As for the Giant, they are fairly decent at the start and can be a decent option as a cheap tank with the Flame Flinger or Archer Queen. Archers, on the other hand, are fairly decent troops for their 1 housing space cost, making them perfect to fit into any army, but are usually only used for cleanup or sniping trash buildings that are out of range of defenses. Likewise, Wizards are great for cleaning up leftover trash buildings and are great for funneling so long as they are behind a tank, but are otherwise just okay. With the Golem, their main job is just tanking, but with other tankier troops like the Meteor Golems and Root Riders that can also ignore walls, it made the Golem's role a bit less valuable. As for wall breakers, they are solid in the beginning, but the super wall breakers tend to be more flexible and easier to use. Now, for the Bowler, it's a fairly decent troop that can be used commonly in spam armies with witches at lower town halls, but can also be used in a Bowler bounce for funneling or removing an air defense. As for Hog Riders, they can be fairly good at lower town halls, but do slowly fall off with more and more splash damage defenses being added along with the Super Hogs being stronger than them. And for the Sneaky Goblin, outside of farming, they are a decent troop, but are specific to funneling resource buildings for cheap, or sniping the CC if close to the outside, making them not bad but not insane either. So here are the D tier troops that can be decent options in your armies or CC. As for the C tier, these are troops that are niche but are fairly good troops overall, whether in the CC or your army comp. Starting with the Lava Hound, while niche to being an air tank, it's perfect to use this in different situations, such as tanking for the Battle Blimp, Lava Loon armies, or even tanking for air spam troops like Dragon Riders. Baby Dragons, however, are mostly decent for funneling if you at least scout air traps for them, or keeping them away from high DPS air targeting defenses like air defenses or multi-archer towers. With the Apprentice Warden, they're still fairly good, especially with tanky units like Root Riders and Meteor Golems, but with more air armies being used, he can't be utilized nearly as well as in the past. With the Minion, they are similar in use to archers and wizards, as they are great for cleanup, but what sets them apart is how cheap and how flexible they are in nearly every army. As for the Witch, it's a fairly good troop at lower town halls within spam, but can be countered quite easily the higher you go due to more and more splash damage defenses being more prevalent, while also having the Super Witch just be stronger. Super Hog Riders, on the other hand, are solid troops for mass Super Hog armies, as they can both provide damage on defenses and cleanup via the Super Rider. Now, Super Valkyries are fairly good in the CC, especially with the Super Yeti in the Log Launcher or Troop Launcher or even the Sky Wagon. As with the Rage spell it can buff the Electromites or Super Yeti itself to get more value. As for the Super Archers, they are fairly decent for Super Archer blimps that can be quite strong, but aren't nearly as flexible due to using all your spells to get value. And similar to the Lava Hound, the Ice Hound is quite solid with its freeze on death, making it a bit stronger, but is still niche to similar armies. So here are the C tier troops that can be fairly good across army comps and CCs. Next up is the B tier, where these troops are quite solid in plenty of armies or CCs across town hall levels. Starting with the regular miner, unlike their super version, they are much cheaper at 6 housing space, and they do quite a bit more damage, making them quite good for armies like mass miner or hybrid. As for the druid, along with getting a new level, they have become a lot more usable in different situations, especially after its previous buffs to its healing, hero healing, and lifetime. With the meteor golems, their previous nerf to their HP and DPS was bigger than I thought and severely dropped them, as while they're still quite strong, they aren't nearly as OP as they used to be. Now, for the super wizard, it can be decent in golem witch spam armies at lower town halls, but are also mainly good in blizzard blimps with invisibility spells to clear large areas out of the base. Super minions are an exception, as they are quite mid within the actual army, but can be quite strong in the CC, especially in siege machines like the siege barracks or flameflinger. And for super witches, they can be fairly strong when used with the fireball or heroic torch, and thanks to the past changes with the big boys not being sprung off the map, it makes them a lot more viable across town levels. So here are the B tier troops that can be solid options across armies or CCs. Moving on up to the A tier, these are troops that are quite strong and have long-term viability across all town hall levels. Starting with the Ice Golem, they are strong mini tanks to use in multiple armies, with their death freeze enabling troops and heroes to put in more damage before they're able to attack again. As for headhunters, they are strong troops still, with how easy it is to fit them into any army while dealing with defensive heroes easily, which is always worth taking to minimize the amount of damage taken from them, but can also be solid in cleanup since they jump over walls and attack quite quickly. Yetis, on the other hand, are still very flexible troops with how much variety there is, from Yeti witch spam armies at lower town halls to funneling heroes or troops into the base to a Yeti blimp with or without clone spells to secure value. They overall have long-term viability with how strong they and their Yeti mites are. Similar to Yetis, however, furnaces are quite consistent as they offer value with the fire mite spawns, which is perfect with warden walks and can especially work within warden charges, with multiple being used to funnel and distract defenses while doing chip damage over time. As for Valkyries, they mostly rely on good pathing to clear buildings, which is why they work so well with root riders, since they break through walls, allowing the Valkyries a way to path through the base, especially after gaining a new level. Now, for the Electro Titan, they are fairly good troops still with a lot of HP and decent damage, especially with the heroic torch, allowing them to ignore their only weakness to walls, making them very strong in plenty of situations. Now, despite having less warden charge armies being used, rocket balloons are still seeing good usage, since they can snipe defenses for air and ground troops, but can also fit into the CC and used as a cocoa balloon in things like the troop launcher or Skywagon, despite them having slightly higher housing space. Super Barbarians are still very good when it comes to cleanup and funneling, especially with their cheap housing space and rage ability, allowing them to consistently work in many armies without having to worry about air traps. As for Super Wall Breakers, they're still very much worth using, but with less ground armies being used, they aren't nearly as flexible, but are still good for many other options. And for the Super Yeti, they're still quite strong in plenty of situations, with the exception to funneling, as they are amazing in Smash style armies with the Heroic Torch, great within the CC with Super Valkyries, and can be used quite effectively in the Battle Blimp, especially with clone spells. So here are the A tier troops that are very much future-proof in the army comps or CC. Finally, we have the S tier, where these troops are the best option you can use in your CC or army comp regardless of town hall. Starting with the dragon, these guys are still very universal, and with a new level, they are very powerful no matter if you're a town hall 7 or town hall 18 player. They often can work very well in the CC, including at lower town halls, and can be used in mass dragon or hydra armies to crush bases. Electro dragons, on the other hand, are still quite good despite nerfs to totem spells and more people using air skeletons. Despite all that, they're very powerful if used correctly and funneled properly. For balloons, they are still just as important nowadays due to its ability to trigger traps effectively for only 5 housing space, and are necessary for healers to keep them alive. You can also use them within a Lavaloon army to crush bases so long as you know what you're doing. With Root Riders, now that they have a new level, they can tank much longer while still opening walls for your troops, making them fairly flexible and reliable for different armies, especially Root Rider Smash with Valkyries and the new Skywagon Siege. Super Bowlers, on the other hand, are quite strong currently, and when paired with the Heroic Torch, they can be very deadly, especially with how strong their damage is under rage spells, and when paired with the Skywagon Siege, they can be a menace. With the Inferno Dragons, they are great when paired with the Dragon Riders and Totem Spells or in Lavaloon armies, as they can burn up trash buildings, defensive heroes, and guardians in the process. As for Super Dragons, a new level, along with air skeletons being used more, has justified using them to crush bases, especially with how strong totem spells are and the Skywagon Siege Machine is. Now, for throwers, they are still very good with their long range and hefty damage under the Rage Gem, but with more defenses countering ground, they're no longer the top troop in the game. As for healers though, they still remain a top troop, especially with how good the Rage Gem is, allowing for increased heals for both troops and heroes, which is very powerful in Warden Charge armies or even smash attacks. But with the Dragon Riders, they are considered the best troop due to having a huge synergy with Tome Spells, the Skywagon Siege Machine, and the Dragon Duke, enabling them to be much stronger, and with the help of Inferno Dragons, they can easily move between defenses and crush bases, which is still good even after their nerf. So here are the S tier troops that are very powerful and worth using in army comps or CCs. At a glance, here is where each troop ranks from worst to best, including super troops. This should help in visualizing which troops are at the top of their game and which troops could use a boost. If you're also interested in learning super dragons, I recommend checking out this video right here, but YouTube says you may prefer this one instead.